Today's topic is a video that I've been wanting to make for over a year. In fact, it's the reason that I rebuilt my studio into this set from the previous purple one, which I think was over a year now. It's weird to think I've been in this new set for that long. This is just gonna be loose notes, and I'm just gonna talk, and I really hope this is useful for any content creators that upload to YouTube or people that want to just export videos in general, and maybe they're gonna live on the web at some point. So I'm gonna be showing you some samples. Now, the only issue here is that those samples are gonna be doubly compressed because I'll be taking them from YouTube, which has already had YouTube compression applied, which is important because that's what I wanna show you. But that means when they get uploaded again to this video, they're gonna be even more YouTube compressed. But both of the side-by-sides will have the same treatment, so it should still be comparable. But if you want to see the original upload, you can always go back to that video and scrub through it and look at what I'm talking about when I reference an older video. This set, if you look at it now, is sort of a lighter gray on both sides, and there's a lot of stuff on it. And if you compare to the previous set, it was purple, it was dark, and it had a light gradient. There would be, the paint was dark purple, and then there was a light that kind of made it, go through different shades of purple. And I did a similar set to that years before. You think I would have learned my lesson. YouTube hates gradients. Don't do it, especially dark gradients. If you have a really light gradient, which I have here, if you look close, you might see there is some banding and macro blocking and artifacts and stuff, but it's not near as bad as the dark purple gradient. But another thing to keep in mind is that YouTube doesn't like dark. There's sort of like a category of ranges, of luminance ranges, where if it's pure black, it's okay, because it's just gonna be black, and it's not gonna be compressed, like nothing's gonna be given to it because it's no data anyway, just gonna be black. But if you go slightly up from black, you could probably maybe use my t-shirt as an example here, or this thing over here. You have a little bit of a wiggle room where it'll be mostly kind of crushed down and still look okay. But when you get to that dark purple area that I had, or anything up to about middle gray, that's where it's light enough to be seen in the frame, but not light enough to be given enough data to look good. So you just get like much larger compression than you would on a lighter scene. So I thought, well, I can fix that. I'll make this new set. And this new set will have, everything will be higher key, and the gradients will be minimized like they are up here. And they'll also be broken up, which is another good piece of advice. Break up your shot. You see I've got props in the background. The pegboard behind me is textured, which we'll talk a little bit more about this, but sometimes can help based on principles of like dithering and film grain and stuff like that. But all this helps to eliminate the sort of gradient banding effect that YouTube will create. However, I've introduced a new problem, which is why I never made the video of like, here's how to make a set that YouTube won't compress as heavily, which is that when I made this set, I started to look worse. So I'm gonna try to illustrate something now. Look at the details of my face. Look at my pores, look at my, whatever, nose and hair and all that stuff. If I make the rest of the frame extremely dark, it's quite likely, because I've done this test myself, that all of a sudden I get sharper and all the details look better on me. YouTube only sort of gives you so many bits to work with. And if you create a scene that's brighter and has all this other stuff in it to defeat the bad banding dark scene issue, well, now this stuff requires bits, and those bits get taken away from your face, or rather spread more evenly throughout, so you get less detail on your face. I think these are important things because if you can start with the set design and production design, then it helps when it comes to just changing settings on your computer, which we're about to get to now. If you shoot with a picture profile that doesn't add any sharpening, for instance, I shoot this one in S-Log3, and I have the sharpening turned all the way down in camera because I like to do it in post. And in fact, I don't do it in post because when I watch the file on my computer, not on YouTube, it looks great. Just that 4K export, there's enough detail there. With the lens that I use and the camera I use, there's enough detail. Like I'm looking at myself on the monitor right now and I go, this shot looks outstanding. Then I upload it to YouTube, face gets all mushy. If you add sharpening, or rather do add sharpening, well, if you're using a profile that already has quite a bit of sharpening applied, like some of the profiles are just fit for delivery right away, then maybe you don't need to add it. What I would say is, for me, when I add just enough sharpening that it starts to look slightly over-sharpened on my computer, that's good for YouTube. YouTube makes everything softer. This isn't fully like just a targeted compression thing. It's just everything looks a bit softer on YouTube. So sharpen it a bit too much in advance so that when it gets to YouTube, it falls back to the right sharpening. This made a huge difference for me. Probably the single biggest difference I can say is slightly over sharpen your footage and it'll look way better on YouTube. Of course, if you are shooting an S-Log3, somebody might have some LUTs, link in description, that'll make your whole S-Log3 color grading experience so much easier and give you perfectly accurate color in just one step. That's what I strive for with my LUTs. Check them out using the link in the description. Anyway, getting back to this, I find that say, I've got a little stubble on my face, right? If the edges of this stubble aren't well defined, YouTube will kind of compress it more. But if you add a little bit of sharpening and it gives it a bit of an edge outline, then YouTube says, I don't compress that as much, preserve those details. Now, the other one that kind of surprised me, and one of the reasons why I had to reevaluate this, is I've always been trying to make my exports more efficient, using a better codec, finding ways to better balance size to quality and that kind of thing. And so the biggest disappointment for me was that H.264 looks better on YouTube than H.265. Even though H.265 is more efficient, theoretically you could give them both the same amount of bits. You'd think that H.265 would have a better image. I don't know what it is, but when you upload an H.265 file to YouTube, it hits it harder than it does an H.264 file. Another one that sucked for me was don't use a quantizer. If you don't even know what that word means, then maybe this isn't an issue in the first place, but often when you go to your export settings, you'll have the choice between constant bitrate, variable bitrate, and then maybe it'll say something like constant QP or CQP or something like that. That is the quantizer. It's the thing where you can set like 3 different values. The closer to 0 the value is, the higher the quality, and the bigger the number, the lower quality. So what I would do is I would change them 1 digit at a time until I could no longer see a visual improvement. And the advantage is that they also they're more efficient for file size than if you just sort of set like a really high quality variable bitrate. And I would dial that in perfectly. And I've been doing that for the last 5-6 months, dialing it in and being really, really, really happy with the export. And then I've been getting comments lately of like, hey Gerald, the quality of your videos is going down. Are you still uploading in 4K? And I started to compare the YouTube to my export, and yeah, it kind of doesn't even look like 4K anymore. In the last couple of weeks, I tried changing all the settings again. And if I don't use a quantizer, if I don't use constant QP, quality goes way up on YouTube. I think efficiency of bitrate is not what YouTube wants. YouTube actually just wants more bits, and it tells it something about do higher quality. But unfortunately, this doesn't apply all the way up, because I also tried uploading ProRes and DNX, big files that aren't nearly as compressed as H.264, H.265, that kind of thing. And there's no noticeable gain over my optimal H.264 settings. But I also went the other way and tried, what about AV1? And again, punished. Super efficient codecs like AV1 get punished by YouTube. Okay, now let's talk about the actual settings in your NLE that you can change to improve your YouTube compression experience. Before we get into that, I do want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Storyblocks. Storyblocks is a stock media platform that offers unlimited downloads of diverse and high quality content for one predictable subscription cost. Just choose a monthly or annual plan and enjoy a library of over 1 million HD and 4K video files, images, and motion graphics templates, including a continually expanding inventory of DaVinci Resolve templates that I've come to really appreciate. And more importantly, all of those assets are created by real people sharing real experiences. Because in this age of artificial intelligence, where an increasing volume of what we see online is generated by AI, Storyblocks is proud to be providing authentic stock content created by actual artists that AI can't replicate. Plus, anything you download from Storyblocks is 100% royalty-free with clear-cut licensing, so you can focus on creating, not worrying about usage rights. The platform is incredibly easy to use, and the library is frequently restocked with commission content based on customer demand to ensure you'll have access to files that are not only high quality, but fresh and diverse. So to streamline your workflow and get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/undone or click the link in the description. This next one might be a bit of a placebo, but I also started testing MP4 versus MOV files. It's marginal, but I feel like MP4 files looked slightly better. And so I put this all together, and then I started using MP4, H.264, variable bitrate with sort of high quality tuning, and then I was just increasing the bitrate, like 5 megabits per second at a time, until I could no longer see anything better on YouTube when I uploaded it. And the highest bitrate to where I couldn't tell the difference anymore was 45 megabits per second. And that's at 24 frames per second. If you shoot at a higher frame rate, so like 60 frames a second, you're probably going to want a higher bit rate. So I'll put all my settings on the screen now. I use DaVinci Resolve and I use NVENC, but I don't think either of those things are important. I think what's more important is the H.264, MP4 with a variable bitrate, tuned highly with up to 45 megabits per second for 4K at 24 to 30 frames per second, and you export out a file that is slightly more sharpened than you'd want it to be, the YouTube quality will be significantly different. This would surprise you because it's the same shot. Nothing's changed. I didn't, the scene, nothing, the camera lens, nothing. And just look how mushy using a quantizer in H.265 is, even though the file looks better on my computer compared to the H.264 variable bitrate one. And if you add a bit of sharpness, man, does it look so much better. There is one other thing that's worth trying if you're committed to a scene that has a lot of those issues with production design, dark gradients and that kind of thing. Based on dithering principles, I've seen mixed results personally and from other videos that I've watched of using like a film grain. Now this requires a lot of finessing and is very scene dependent, but if you've done all these things and you're still getting beat up pretty badly by YouTube compression based on your scene, I would say try throwing some film grain into the mix and see if that helps. I just hope this video was helpful. Like I said, it's been over a year of me trying different things, and I finally have an image, which I think should be the one you're looking at now, based on my settings, that I'm pleased with. Thanks for watching. Good luck with your YouTube uploads. All right, I'm done.